Planes have been the target of hijackings and terrorist organisations ever since the first recorded incident in 1931. This is probably due to the amount of media coverage that any attempt would get, thus boosting any terrorist organisation's public profile. Believe it or not, there was actually a so-called golden age of hijacking where security in airlines left a lot to be desired. And because of this, between 1969 and 1980, many planes around the world would be targeted, from the notorious case of DB Cooker to the youngest ever hijacker, 14-year-old David Booth. Today's video is about a hijacking right in the middle of this deadly decade, the attack on Sabena Flight 571. But it'll be the daring rescue mission which would cement this event in history. Sabena, short for Belgian Corporation for Air Navigation Services, was in 1972 Belgium's national airline. Flight 571, captained by Reginald Levy, DFC, prepared his Boeing 707 to depart from a scheduled stop in Vienna on a Brussels to Lodz service on the 8th of May 1972. It would be the captain's 50th birthday, and because of this, his wife Dora was also aboard, as the two had planned to celebrate in Tel Aviv. All had been well during the first leg of the journey. However, once the plane reached 33,000 feet, just 20 minutes after departing Vienna, this run-of-the-mill journey would take a dangerous turn. Two men and two women who had been pretending to be couples, Ali Tahar Abu Sinna, Abed Al-Aziz Atrash, Rima Tanios and Teresa Hausa, leapt out of their seats brandishing two handguns, two grenades and two belts of explosives, quickly taking over control of the aircraft with the two men forcing their way into the cockpit. The hijackers were members of the Black September organisation, a breakaway group of the PLO, an organisation with the purpose of the liberation of Palestine through armed struggle mainly aimed against Israeli and Jewish civilians. The group would be later on behind the tragic Munich Olympic hostage massacre. Captain Levy kept calm at gunpoint, announcing to the passengers over the PA, "As you can see, we have friends on board." Levy was ordered to stay on course to Lod. He would comply, albeit at the slowest possible speed, in order to give any chance of a rescue effort time to materialise. After the control had been taken of the aircraft, the hijackers went on to separate the passengers, forcing every Jewish hostage to the back of the plane. Both Levy and his first officer managed to transmit coded messages explaining the situation. As well as communicating to the ground, Captain Levy managed to get a message to the cabin crew asking to keep the identity of his wife secret. The coded messages would find their way to Moshe Dayan, setting off plans for rescue once the plane landed at Lod. Nighttime had reached Lod Airport as 571 landed. Quickly, the aircraft was shepherded to a quiet part of the airport. The hijackers made their demands known to release 315 Palestinian terrorist prisoners held in Israel. Otherwise, they would blow up the plane. Whilst the plane sat on the tarmac, Israeli agents managed to let out the air out to the aircraft's tyres and disabled the hydraulic system, immobilising 571. Levy managed to calm down the agitated hijackers by claiming that the plane had experienced technical issues, disallowing them from taking off again. Throughout the night, Levy spoke with the hijackers, saying later, "I talked about everything under the sun, from navigation to sex." His efforts helped build up the trust, buying everyone on board time for a rescue effort. On the morning of the 9th, Levy was sent to the terminal building to show that the attackers meant business. He was sent with a sample of explosives the terrorists planned to use if their demands were not met. This might not have been a wise idea, as Levy not only showed them the sample, but also described in full the situation aboard the aircraft, vitally explaining that the doors were not blocked. Under Moshe Dayan, Levy was instructed to return to the plane and tell the hijackers that Israel would agree to the terms and would begin to release the prisoners. This might sound like it was pretty easy for the Black September to get their demands met. But don't forget, this is Israel and they probably aren't going to give in that easy. Upon returning to the plane, the news was met by the hijackers rejoicing, further exciting them when over the radio a voice spoke in Arabic claiming to be a released prisoner. Moshe told the hijackers that the plane would be repaired and the released prisoners would shortly arrive at the airport to be transferred off to Cairo. However, all of this was a ruse and all a way of buying time to position Israeli special forces for a rescue attack. Later on in the day, bogus prisoners started to appear within sight of Flight 571 boarding an aircraft. In the hijackers' minds, everything was appearing to go to plan. So much so that they allowed the plane's doors to be opened to help with the midday sun beating down on the aircraft. Even more encouraging, 21 hours after the initial hijacking, two trucks carrying 18 men in white overalls pulled up to Sabena 571 and appeared to begin repairing the flat tyres. However, everything was not as it seemed. After milling around appearing to repair the plane, the 18 overall men burst into the aircraft through the emergency doors over the wings, opening fire as they went. Within 90 seconds, the 2 male hijackers lay dead. The overall men were part of the elite commando unit Sayeret Matkal, led by Ehud Barak, and included Benjamin Netanyahu, both future prime ministers. Several inside the plane would be injured, including one woman who would later die of her wounds. Netanyahu was also injured in his bicep. The 2 surviving hijackers were arrested, with Teresa Hauser injured and Rima Tanios left relatively unscathed. Both the hijackers were later convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment, only to be exchanged in 1983 after the Lebanon War for Israeli prisoners. Captain Levy insisted on flying the 707 back to Belgium and would continue to fly until his retirement in 1981, living in Dover with his wife, who also survived 571. His wife Dora passed away in 2005 and Reginald died in 2010 at the age of 88. His bravery during the hijacking was not out of character, as he was a veteran of World War II and the Berlin airlift. The 707 would carry on to serve Sabena for another 5 years, ironically being sold off to the Israeli military for use as a spy plane. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like and a comment below. If you haven't done so already, I'd always appreciate it if you subscribed, and don't forget to click the bell icon to keep up to date. I also have a Patreon if you fancy supporting the channel financially. And all that's left to say is thank you for watching.